Welcome to my ultimate guide for playing the Pokemon trading card game in 2025. In today's video, we're going to go over learning how to play, formats and rotation, building your own decks, what are some good beginner decks, playing on Pokemon TCG Live, and where to play the game physically. Let's begin with the basics, the different types of cards. So there's Pokemon cards, there's trainer cards, and there's energy cards. For Pokemon, you're going to look at the top left and see that they say Basic, Stage 1, or Stage 2. Basic Pokemon can be played directly onto the board. Stage 1 Pokemon need to be evolved on top of Basics, and Stage 2 need to be evolved on top of Stage 1s. Now, there is a card called Rare Candy, which is an item, and that lets you skip the Stage 1 and go straight from Basic to Stage 2. That's a card that you're going to be seeing pretty often if you're playing the game competitively. For trainer cards, there are 4 different kinds of trainer cards. There are item cards, supporters, Pokemon tools, and stadiums. Item cards, you can play any number of item cards during your turn that you want, but beware, there are some effects that say your opponent cannot play item cards. Namely, there's a new card, Badoo, from Prismatic Evolutions, that has a free attack that says next turn your opponent cannot play item cards. But items are very, very strong because you can play any number of them each turn, and they're going to help you find the cards that you need to enact your strategies. Supporter cards are very powerful, and they can only be played once a turn. You may only play one supporter card during your turn. You'll see each of the trainer cards rules on the bottom right. This card, Iono, lets each player shuffle their hand, put the hand at the bottom of their deck, and then draw cards for each of their remaining prize cards. A lot of supporters are going to be drawing you cards or searching for multiple cards at a time. Pokemon tools. You may attach any number of Pokemon tools to your Pokemon during your turn. You may attach only one Pokemon tool to each Pokemon, and it stays attached. So this card, like Defiance Band, it boosts the attack damage of your Pokemon. And then finally, stadium cards, the last type of trainer card. You may only play one stadium card during your turn, put it next to the active spot, and discard it if another stadium comes into play. You cannot replace this stadium with another stadium of the same name. And stadium cards have effects that each player can use on their turn. Finally, energy cards. Basic energy, like this psychic energy you see here, you can play as many basic energy as you want in a deck. They don't adhere to the 4 copies per card rule. You can play 12 basic psychic energy if you want. Now, special energy do adhere to the card rule. You can only play a maximum of 4 copies of a card in your deck other than basic energy. So a special energy like this, you would only be able to play a maximum of 4 of in your deck, and they typically have good effects other than just providing energy. You'll see on Pokemon, they have their energy costs printed next to the attack. So Gardevoir would need Psychic, Psychic, and then any color of energy to use this attack. Here's that Badoo I was mentioning that stops your opponent from playing item cards next turn. And this actually has a free attack. This little grayish white circle means free. It costs 0 energy to use that attack. Now, learning to play, understanding how a game goes, how to set up, how every little mechanic of the game works. There is a good video series on the Pokemon website. If you are a complete beginner, you don't know anything about the game other than what I just explained, this video series should take about 25 minutes to go through. And there's also a PDF version if you'd prefer to learn by reading it. I'll have links to all of that in the description down below. Now, if you want to get a little more advanced and not only learn how to play the game, but how to succeed at the game, be a great player, I do have a short trailer here to watch. In this masterclass, you will learn about the fundamentals of the game, including deck building, in-game decisions, tournament preparation, and even specific things like how to sequence, making micro decisions and macro decisions, how to pick a deck, and how to practice to become the best that you can be. Furthermore, I will be using influence from my psychology studies on confidence and mental health within the game. If you practice and take in all the concepts that I discuss in this course, you will become a more confident player, a more skilled player, and have a better understanding of the game overall. Regardless if you just started playing the Pokemon TCG, you've been playing for a few months or years, or even if you've been attending tournaments, I guarantee that 99% of players will learn something from this course, whether it's about the ins and outs of in-game playmaking decisions, or even just the confidence building skills that I talk about through matchup conceptualization and better mental health practices. So, what is this trailer you just watched? It's a trailer to my competitive Pokemon TCG Masterclass. In this class, you'll learn how to build winning decks, advanced strategies and decision making skills, and so much more. It includes forever access, free updates, and a group that's connected to it. And you can see here just a couple of little reviews on the screen. So if you are interested in taking your game to the next level, do what so many have already done and join my competitive Pokemon TCG Masterclass. Of course, if you have any questions about this, I do have links down below, and also on my Metafy page, you can easily connect with me on Discord or Twitter, or even make a Metafy account and message me on there if you have any questions regarding this. So next we're going to look at formats and rotations. The standard format is the format that pretty much all events use. There used to be the expanded format, which used cards all the way back to 2011 or 2012. And that format has gotten increasingly hard for newer players to enter into and to understand. And it's also just a mess logistically because there's so many banned cards. There's probably more cards that need to be banned. So expanded format does not really exist right now. Standard format is what you need to know about. And all that standard format means is it's going to be a guideline to which cards you're allowed to play in your deck. So during every championship series, every championship series season, Pokemon removes older expansions from competition in the standard format with the goal of maintaining a healthy competitive environment and also kind of to sell cards. This rotation challenges existing players to create new strategies and enables new players to get involved and play Pokemon events using the most recent releases. So the current standard format when I'm recording this in January 2025 is F block and on. That means that any card with this regulation F mark or any later letter in the alphabet is legal for play. As sets release, formats rotate, and metagames develop, some decks may become less viable or even obsolete. This is the nature of trading card games that have a rotating standard format, and you should know this going in. But in my opinion, Pokemon TCG does a better job at keeping many decks, sets, and cards relevant compared to other major card games. As you'll see as we go on in this video, decks and competitive cards are incredibly cheap. Even if you're scared off because you see the scalpers and the collector prices and the price of ETBs, none of that matters for competitive players because the single cards are still so cheap. The base rarity cards that you're going to put in your deck are incredibly inexpensive. So most competitive decks right now are $100 or less. Usually when a new set comes out, if there's like an EX that's very good, maybe decks will go up to maybe 125, 150, but there's so many decks that we'll look at today that are in like the $40 to $80 range to build just out of if you ordered every single card. So something very important to know is that standard format will rotate to G block and on, meaning cards with the regulation mark G and later in the alphabet will be legal for play. That means F regulation cards are going to be rotated out. And this will happen on Pokemon TCG Live on March 27th, and it will happen for in-person events on April 11th. If you are brand new to the game, I suggest staying away from purchasing physical cards, decks, and sets with large quantities of F block cards in them, since these F block cards are about to rotate out of standard format. So looking at this Lugia V-Star Archeops deck, very good deck. I believe this is a 9th place list from Kieran Farah at a recent major event, and you'll see that if you were to buy this deck if you were to buy this deck right now, It would only cost $57, which is really not very expensive in my opinion for a good competitive deck that won thousands of dollars at this event. So this deck becomes obsolete though with rotation in April 2025, but it's a high tier deck right now. So this is a great example of a deck that I would suggest you do not build because the cards that make it good, the Lugia and the Archeops, the entire namesake of the deck, are rotating out of standard format. So this deck will be obsolete after March for Pokemon TCG Live and April for in real life events. But looking at a deck like Charizard Pidgeot, while this loses some of its support Pokemon and Radiant Charizard, the core of the deck will remain intact. And Japan is already playing post rotation. So Japan rotated on January 24th, I believe. And they also already have the Journey Together cards, which you can see the results from those tournaments at this link here. And I will likely leave that link in the description down below as well. But we'll see here that on the left, that's the current version of Charizard. And then on the right, that's the post-rotation version that Japan is playing. So the Charizard line, the Pidgeots, the Dusknoir, the Pheasantipiti, a lot of the supporter cards, most of this is still going to be playable after the rotation. So Charizard would be a great deck to buy because you wouldn't have to change too much to keep it being a legal deck after the rotation. You could even build most of the post-rotation version and just add in the Journey Together card. There's only one here, which is the Lily's Clefairy. You could just add that in when that set comes out. Here's another great example. Our Chaladon right now, also looking at it currently $77 to build the current version, but the V Pokemon will rotate out. So all V Pokemon are going to be gone. Dialga V, Dialga V-Star, Lumineon V, all the Radiants are gone too, so Radiant Greninja, those will leave. But we'll see here, this is a post-rotation Journey Together version of the deck, so our Chaladon EX itself will still be very playable. After the rotation, the deck will just change a little bit. These are all of the legal sets as of January 2025, and these are all of the sets that will not rotate in 2025. So if the set has Scarlet and Violet in its name, it means that you're good to go. Those cards are not rotating this year. The best sets to buy for competitive cards if you really want to crack packs. I've put 2 stars on the ones that are best to buy. I've put 1 stars on the other ones, and I put 0 stars on something like Prismatic Evolutions because nobody should be buying that for any reason because of the scalper prices. But like I said, you really just want to buy single cards. Just buy singles. I highly suggest buying the specific cards needed for decks you are interested in playing. The game is very, very affordable at a competitive level right now. On the left here, you see these are all decks that are in the current standard format, but will mostly survive when rotation happens, when we remove the F block cards. And then over here, you see these are some of the most competitive cards. And the most expensive one here is $3. So like Dragapult EX, is going to be very, very strong. The card's like $3 a copy. And you see here, it's really not expensive to play the game right now. What should you expect from new sets? There's 2 things you should expect. 1, the only constant is change. And 2, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You'll see Pokemon rehashing old strategies, old effects, old HP and damage outputs. So if you learn one format, you learn another format, eventually you start seeing things that are recognizable. But don't worry about new sets too much. Focus on what's going on in the game now. Work on getting better at the game, enjoying the game, have fun at the game. And when the new set comes out, you could tackle that. And I'm always making new content here so you can stay up to date for sure. Regardless of what decks you're building, there are typically staple cards in every standard format that will be generally useful in most decks. All of these are very good now, and they will all stay in rotation. Even though you see, like, the Professor's Research and the Ultra Balls here are yellow border and they have F on them, they've been reprinted with further regulation marks on them. So, what is your goal with building decks? If you want to have fun, build creative decks, and have exciting battles, by all means, you should do so. But if you want to be the very best like no one ever was, I suggest starting with tier 1 decks that are proven to work, so you can focus on your gameplay rather than the deck. I always suggest trying decks out with printed proxies online or on Limitless Tabletop before investing in the physical cards. Some good beginner decks are going to include Raging Bolt, Raging Bolt, and Ogrepon. Um, and the decks I'm showing during this portion for the good beginner decks, these are current decks in January 2025. The F regulation mark cards here will rotate out on PTCG Live at the end of March. But Raging Bull Ogrepon is pretty simple because you have one main supporter that you're trying to use, which is Sada's, because it's going to accelerate energy to your ancient Pokemon. Ogrepon, you can attach a basic grass energy to each turn and draw a card for it. So if you have 3 Ogrepons, you can do that 3 times. And then Raging Bolts, Bellowing Thunder, just does a whole bunch of damage, and you get the discard energy off of your board to do so. Archaladon Dialga V-Star is also a good beginner deck. There's not too many moving pieces. When Archaladon evolves, you get to accelerate basic energies. Dialga V-Star has a ridiculous V-Star attack that lets you take an extra turn, so that's really cool. And then Professor Tauros, you get to pick up a Pokemon. So if Archaladon takes a hit and doesn't get knocked out, you just Professor Tauros it up because it has such high HP. So it's a good Pokemon to tank some hits with. And Iron Thorns EX. This is a simple deck to play because you only have one Pokemon in your deck, Iron Thorns, and you have 4 copies of it. You're trying to turn off your opponent's important abilities with initialization so they can pretty much not play the game. And then you have some extra disruption in here like Crushing Hammer and Enhanced Hammer to get rid of their energies, and Judge to get rid of their hand, Airy to discard items from their hand. So this is a disruptive deck, but pretty simple to play because it's just 4 Iron Thorns. Where to play? Well, you can play at local game stores, and you can find the event locator on Pokemon.com. League Challenge are the lowest competitive level events, and then League Cups are right above it. You do get championship points for playing at these. And major events. So if you earn enough championship points to be in the top X amount of players in your region, you will earn an invite to the World Championships. And League Challenge, League Cups, Regionals, and Internationals are all on the way to the World Championships. You can also play on Pokemon TCG Live, and there are tournaments all the time on play.limitlesstcg.com. These tournaments are free to play in, and you just play via Pokemon TCG Live, connect with your opponent, report your match, rinse and repeat. So I highly suggest doing this to get a taste for the competitive scene. Now, using Pokemon TCG Live. Here's the thing about Pokemon TCG Live. You cannot buy cards in it. You cannot insert money and get the cards you want. Some people think it's good that there's no microtransactions in the game, but it's actually bad because it hurts the accessibility. So you have to go to third-party sites if you want to buy code cards. So the best way to get the credits, so these are trade credits. These are going to let you make cards. So it says here, if you have the maximum number of a card and obtain an extra copy, it will automatically be given it to you for trade credits. These are how you craft or trade for cards. Now, the best way to get trade credits is to complete a small set. You'll see here that I have Celebrations, Shrouded Fable, Paldean Fates all completed. Celebrations is the best one because it's the smallest set, and like most of the cards in the set are rares, so you get more for when you pull duplicate rares. So I suggest opening as many celebrations packs as you can. You'll see here I bought this bundle in the PTCG Live shop with the purple credits, and this is how many trade credits I got from purchasing it because I got all of those duplicates. Now, if you don't have Celebrations packs, Celebrations is a bit of an older set. You can buy them on PotownStore.com. This is the best place to do so. And you can use code Celio for 5% off to save money and also support my channel. So you could just get some, or you could get a 50 pack of Celebrations codes, scan them into the game, or copy and paste them rather, and yeah, once you start pulling duplicates, you'll start getting trade credits, and then you can use those trade credits to make any deck you want. To import a deck, you go to limitlesstcg.com, you copy to clipboard, and then you click Create New Deck, Import Deck. And once you do that, the cards you don't own will be grayed out, And so you click on them and then click exchange, and then it uses your credits to make that card. If you're interested in free article content from me, you can subscribe to my Substack. Link is in the description down below. I write, I pretty much have an archive of educational content on here about the mental game, how to improve, stories about myself as a player. So definitely go check that out. It's free to subscribe to and free to read all the articles. Like I said earlier, I do offer the masterclass, but I also offer one-on-one coaching. I've helped so many players reach their goals and are still reaching their goals. I've coached, juniors division, masters division. I've coached international champions. So let me know what your goals are, what you're struggling with, and we can figure it out together. Thanks for watching my ultimate guide to the Pokemon TCG in 2025, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.